Got the lighting thing going on again. Give me 1 second. Better, I guess. Well, hello, folks. It's another Wednesday, and we are back to rank yet another puzzle game for the Game Boy, and we've got an interesting one. Oh, the lighting went back. We've got an interesting one for you this week. This is Tetris Plus. I do have a bit of a history with this game. If you'll recall, before I started doing these ranked videos, I did something of a little test run called Ranking of the Tetrises, where I took a handful of different versions of Tetris and just compared them to one another. And this game landed pretty much dead last on the list. So, yeah, a little complicated, bit of a history. But this is also the portable companion to an arcade game that I believe was also, well, I know was also ported to PlayStation and Saturn. That's why I believe it, is because it is true, and I know it for a fact. But, you know, in the context of comparing this to other Tetris games, we're going to have to sort of start back at the beginning and look at this with fresh eyes and see what we think. In the context not of Tetris, but of the Game Boy library in general. And that is what we're here to do now. This was 1996 from Jalico. Select mode. We have classic, puzzle, versus, edit, option. Let's start with option. That makes sense. So we're naturally going to start with classic here. We're going to play some Tetris. 20 stages. So, the gimmick of this particular version of Tetris is you'll see there's a little meter. You can kind of see it going up on either side of the screen. That's what determines your speed level. Not line progress, but that thing. And I believe, yeah, when it hits the top, it just kind of stays there until you clear, or maybe not. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea. It works really good in the arcade version because it, you know, the game picks up speed quickly, and at the same time, if you're good at Tetris, it picks up speed even faster, whereas if you're playing quite embarrassingly bad like I am right now, you know, we hit speed level 2 at 16 lines. And I don't know if it shows on stream, but this doesn't control very well. And when I rated this on Ranking of the Tetrises, that was kind of the aspect that doomed it. Is that it's kind of sluggish and unresponsive. It just doesn't feel great to play. It also doesn't look very good. I will grant them it's very readable. It does have sort of a clean visual style, you know. It's kind of hard to gauge the lock delay on here, except I mean, you know, I guess you just have to wait for the audio cue. That seems to be the main thing. I will say too, like the arcade version of this is pretty good. And like the Saturn and PlayStation versions, which I believe I have also streamed those at some point, those are also pretty good. They suffer from some of the same problems here. I think like the lock delay is a little hard to sort of time. I feel like I'm sort of getting it a bit more, but I also feel like I'm pressing the buttons down a little harder than I need to, just because of the way it just doesn't feel like it's moving quite right. I can see like the tetraminos there, the blocks, they appear on that one spot on the screen, and they just kind of hang there for a second before you can move them, and you know, piece distribution here is what it is. We have not yet moved into the 7-bag era. Hitting a bit of a drought. Of course, the ideal time for the drought to end. Okay, is the music speeding up in relation to the speed of the blocks? Like, is that... ultimately, I think this would do in a pinch, you know? Okay. Super spins don't work. I guess maybe I should have expected that. Again, we're still sort of in that middle period where they were starting to revise the rules, but hadn't, you know, fully worked them all out. Did the music chill out? Is that a level 16 thing? Okay, level 20 was the highest I could choose from the onset. It does certainly look as though that meter is climbing back up. Yes, so there is in fact a level 21. Though I do kind of feel like the speed level doesn't make a whole lot of difference for the amount of waiting. There's like so much downtime between each piece dropping. You know, or just you have to wait for it to lock into place, and then the next piece shows up and you have to wait for it to start moving, and it's that weird hang time before it'll... There's probably going to be some point where we just don't have enough control over the pieces that we'll have to try and keep the stack a little lower than I have been. I guess if you've been watching, I've technically kind of already been doing that as I'm saying it. It seems to take about 2 levels before the difference in speed becomes actually noticeable. So like, 27 was noticeably faster than 26, but 28 is not noticeably faster than 27. But I assume when 29 comes up, I'll be able to tell the difference then. Kinda. Oop. Oops. Visually, I can kind of tell there's a difference in speed, but the speed in this game is really throttled by the amount of downtime between each piece. fact, I think to some degree, I would say that maybe that kind of throttled feeling, you know, this sense that everything is just sort of stopping and starting, like, I think that's probably where the sense of this game being kind of sluggish and unresponsive comes from. You know, now that the pieces are dropping at a decent speed, it does feel like the game isn't quite as unresponsive. It, weirdly enough, feels a little more responsive at this speed. Outside of that, like, half second where you have to just kind of wait for the block to start moving. If clearing Tetrises on high levels gives you any more points than doing so on low levels, I was not paying enough attention to tell. This is easier than the console version. If I were playing like the PS1 version of this game, I would have already lost and started a new game, and lost that new game and started a third one by now. Oops. Oh, maybe that works out. Or not. Some point we're gonna have to check out puzzle mode. I vaguely remember puzzle mode not being great. But I mean, it's there. Yeah, at this point the level keeps going up, but I think the speed has maxed out because this does not feel substantially faster than level 36. And this is better at high speed compared to low speed. This is something where, you know, if I was going to play this casually, I would set the level to 20 from the start. Waiting for the heat to turn up is a bit of a chore. So I wouldn't say I'm warming up on this necessarily, but there's maybe some grace that I'm willing to give it that I was not the last time I ranked it. Well, I've been playing for almost a half hour. I'm not clear on why the level keeps going up. It's not doing anything. Just kind of for show at this point. Version with critters Tetrising. Oh yeah, that was the Nonton game. Yeah, that one ended up ranking pretty well. It's a game based on a series of children's books created by the books weren't created, but the game was developed by the future developers of the Pokemon series. That game will likely end up ranking a bit higher than this one. wall kicks are a little inconsistent. If they're at all, I don't know, you get, okay, no, they're not there at all, so that is, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be expecting features that advanced from this game. Would you compare it to hoping for, say, 3D graphics off the NES? Not gonna lie, I don't entirely understand the question. And also, I can only take my eyes off the board for so long at a time. The hardware isn't really the issue, necessarily. I mean, this is a game from 1996, and original Game Boy Tetris came out in, like, 89? And that one kinda outclasses this one. As far as, like, different features go and that, it's more that, you know, they've been continuing to refine the Tetris rule set for, I mean, gosh, going on what, like 30 years now? And so, like, the ability to, what is it, when the blocks are pressed up against the side of the wall there, and you try to rotate them, in this game, it won't do it. Whereas, like, in more recent Tetris games, it will sort of push them away from the wall and then rotate them. And, yeah, it's little things like that you sort of gradually get used to. You know, being able to hard drop the blocks by pressing up on the D-pad, or being able to sort of buffer the inputs before the blocks start dropping. Looking over, we have officially maxed out the scoreboard. So if I keep playing, won't be getting any more points. So took about 30 minutes to max out the score. I guess it also tracks your lines. Wonder if you can max out the line counter at 999. Yeah, congrats on the books. What do you mean, try again? How much better do you want me to do? Okay, so we can't really check versus mode, but I think it's pretty... Oh wait, yes we can. Oh wait, no we can't. Okay, so let's try puzzle. New game. Normal, I guess? Egypt. Let's go! Professor, you're a mummy. Cool, isn't it? Okay. Oh. I honestly can't remember if this is how puzzle mode worked in the console version. Maybe we were good to set the difficulty up a bit. Okay, no, actually, I sort of remember this. Dude needs to get out of the way. You're okay, climb back up? Climb back up! Come on. There you go. There, now jump through. So, and I believe edit mode is just, they let you design your own stages for this. You know, I kind of feel like RNG is to blame for this situation. Complain all you want. This whole mode kind of feels like it's just here to be here. I don't know. If you hold down the A button, he moves a little faster. I wonder if they blister in the sun. And so you can just drop blocks right on top of them. Go the other way. For some reason I thought dropping the piece directly on top of him would hurt him. I must be thinking of a different game. Yeah, I don't know about this. I feel like my control over the outcome is, you know, heavily dependent on getting pieces that actually work with the board. Apparently we got 2 treasures. We might as well see what... Yeah, okay. Well, it does have that. That is sort of a value add. And it has options. Or technically option. Apparently it's just got the one. Well, if you look at the option screen, it technically has 2. As you can remap the buttons or turn off the background music. What happens if we play on very hard? Let's go! Okay, this is not noticeably different so far. Let's reset this. Back to normal. We're gonna go with Maya instead. Let's go! I found a secret path. Good job. Seems like this is pretty much the same thing as well. Admittedly, this puzzle looks a little tougher. Again, this seems to be some actual puzzle design to this one. Unfortunately, we didn't get good pieces. And because we didn't get good pieces, the whole thing immediately fell apart. Now I just gotta sit here and try to figure out how to salvage it. And because we didn't get it right away, we find ourselves just trapped. And this time, we got better pieces from the start, and so it was immediately solvable. This is not a good puzzle mode. But with that, I think we can get ready to put this on the list now. Okay, turn that off, bring this back up. So the last time I did this, again, as I've already said, it was in the context of ranking a bunch of other Tetris games. And when you compare this to a bunch of other Tetris games, it's not good. It was either bottom of the list or very close to the bottom of the list. Now, I did play it a little bit longer this time, and you give it a little more time. I think if you set the speed really, really high from the jump, it is a little more playable. But I think really the biggest difference here is that we're not comparing it to other Tetrises, we're just comparing it to other puzzle games. And let's say this... It's very underwhelming, but it's also very adequate. It ticks the boxes that it needs to in order to be a Tetris game, and it doesn't really do much more. It's not as good as the original Game Boy Tetris, or Dr. Mario, or Kirby Star Stacker, or Non Tanto Isho Kuru Kuru Puzzle. In fact, I would say it's not as good as Rockin' Monster. Ooh, sinuses are suddenly... Give me a second, I'm gonna just... Sorry about that. I should probably, mute the microphone if I'm gonna do that. Okay. So it's not as good as Rockin' Monster. But it's better than this kind of slightly broken version of Puyo Puyo. Again, it is, at the very least, I know Puyo Puyo is a color-based game, so issues are going to be a thing, except that they definitely weren't for the sequel. But this is nevertheless much more readable than Puyo Puyo. Arguably more readable than Rockin' Monster as well, but Rockin' Monster's got other things going for it. I think that's a fairly comparatively compelling game. This is better than the Bust-A-Move 3DX, again for readability reasons. It's better than Tetris. It is a more exciting cube game than Flipple. It's better than Die Mouse, which, a game so forgettable that I quite literally forgot that I'd played it. You know, you can just go around those bushes. You just go around them. No, it's still not as good as Rockin' Monster, though. Like, I was reconsidering that, but no, Rockin' Monster's got stuff going for it. So this is our new number 28, Tetris Plus. A game that will satisfy your Tetris craving in a pinch, but it's not great. But also, if you have the chance to play either the Sega Saturn, Sony PlayStation, or arcade versions of Tetris Plus, give them a try. Those are actually pretty good games. This portable companion version specifically just leaves something to be desired. And with that, that is going to be 65 games on this list, and that is going to be me for this evening. So I will be back tomorrow night with live improvised music. I'll be back on Saturday night with music production. I'll be back next week to play on Monday some more Monster Lair, whatever the hell that game is called, and another ninja game for a Sega system. I'll be playing some more Etrian Odyssey on Tuesday, and we will be playing another puzzle game, this time next week, on Ranking of the Game Boy Puzzlers. So until such time, thanks for coming by, thank you for hanging out, thank you Right Mood for hopping in and saying hello and chatting with me. And as always, I do hope to see you next time. So bye for now.